Welcome back. Last year we spoke to a local rock climbing couple as they prepared for a trip to America to climb in the famous Yosemite Valley.
Climbing is a sport that's certainly not for the faint-hearted. It requires hard work, dedication and a passion for what you do. Characteristics Christchurch couple Mayan Smith-Gobat and Max Farr have in spades.
Personal achievement. You just set yourself a goal. No, everyone does it, no matter how arbitrary it is. It could be high school, it could be playing the piano. Us, it's just something physical and something in the outdoors.
I think it's not conquering that, it's conquering yourself.
Yeah.
Like, the mountain is a means of conquering yourself and
it shows
facing
your
your
weaknesses.
fears, basically. Yeah. I love heights. I love being out in the mountains. I love being at the top of a 1,000-metre face. There's a sense of freedom that you just don't get elsewhere.
And for Mayan, who grew up in a family that was into the outdoors, the move into climbing was a natural progression, and she's never looked back.
For me, it's also that when you're climbing, you have a real detachment. Like, you have to focus so hard on exactly what you're doing at that particular point in time. That single move, there's no room for anything else.
And with the pair agreeing that climbing is their #1 priority.
And the sport is a lifestyle.
It's
like
a recreational
I've been moulding
sport,
my
it's a
life.
lifestyle.
I've chosen it, and I've been moulding my life around climbing. Like, it's the main focus of my life, and I do just about everything I do has some relevance to climbing. Like, if I know that something is going to have a bad effect for climbing, I usually won't do it.
It's a love for the sport that sees them spend many hours training, either at local climbing spots or on purpose-built equipment at home.
Pretty much half of our week is climbing, the other half is working and that sort of thing.
And even in the time where we're not actually physically training, there's a lot of stretching, thinking about climbing, kind of mental preparation for what we're doing as well. So.
Yeah.
But aside from the physical aspect of climbing, there's also a mental barrier to overcome, although both admit fear of heights has never been an issue.
People often say that it's almost more mental than physical, because believing that you can, like, when you've got an individual move that's whatever, a really big move, off a tiny handhold, and it just doesn't look like you can make it there. Half of it is just knowing that you can, even if you kind of or like believing that you can, even if you know you can't. Sometimes you can.
After spending many years in the sport, the pair now look to perfect their technique and to climb in a style that uses no ropes for assistance.
Climbing for us is freeing a route, so it's climbing under your own steam from the bottom to the top without using anything that isn't your hands and feet. So
using
the ropes and all of the equipment is purely if you make a mistake, which can happen. And it just stops you from hurting yourself.
It's a challenge the pair have laid down for themselves and has led them to now focusing on one of the world's most historic climbs, the El Capitan Mountain in the Yosemite's Valley in California.
Trying to be the first female to free climb Golden Gate, which is a particular route on El Capitan, which is the biggest wall in Yosemite Valley, and it's one of the most historical climbing areas in the world.
And although the El Capitan Valley is very different from anything the pair have encountered in New Zealand, they believe they can draw on experience they've gained from climbing around the world.
Also that both of us have spent time training and climbing in other places in the world previously, and as much, the more of different places you've climbed, the easier it is for you to adapt to a new place. Like, I've climbed, in the last few years, I've climbed in many, many, many different spots all over the world, and have got quite good at just kind of, when you get to an area, just learning how to climb on that different style of rock.
And for the ascent to be acknowledged by the international climbing community, there are a number of rules the pair must follow.
We have big haul bags which are up to 100 kilos, even more sometimes, and we'll be hauling those behind us. So using
every time we get to a
and
safe point, we'll use pulleys and stuff to haul our equipment up with us, have a drink of water, the rest of it, and then continue on the climb.
With the 1,000-metre climb expected to take 5 days, the pair will have to sleep suspended from the rock face.
a hammock but with fixed straight edges around it, which is then suspended off a bolt or a safe anchor point in the rock.
Suspended off the ground.
You're suspended 500, 700, 800 metres off the ground.
Yeah.
And if she is to successfully complete the climb, it will cement Mayan's place amongst the world's most renowned female climbers.
It's something that has been done in the past, like on different routes. One of the most influential female climbers was Lynn Hill, and she was the first woman to free climb a route next door to the one which we were going to try. And it's exciting for me to try and do something that's close to what she did.
But Mayan, who holds a world climbing ranking of 4th, is quick to acknowledge that completing the climb would be nearly impossible without the help of Max.
I'll be relying on Max for support hugely up there. People have climbed it on their own, like fully on their own in the past, but as a first experience it'll be, I think, something that hopefully is achievable, doing it as a team, and I'm excited to be on the wall, working in a team on the wall. So.
With 5 days spent on the rock face, each admit there will be difficult moments, but hope they can get each other through it.
Feeding off each other will be quite a huge thing, and looking for Max for other ideas if I'm stuck to how to get through something will be.
Yeah, and there can be a lot of physical problems on a route, like how do I get around this, how do I do that? But then there's a lot of things like there's a point in time where your energy levels get low, and so you're not really thinking quite so well, and so Mayan will probably rely on me for sort of that emotional support and recognising when she's not feeling up to something and saying you need to approach it in this way. I need to feed things to her.
Even just for that, hey, you're low on energy, you should eat something.
Yeah.
The pair will leave Christchurch and head to Europe for training in a month's time and have set a date to climb El Capitan on October 3rd this year, Mayan's 30th birthday.
Awesome.
Mayan's dream of completing Golden Gate in 2009 wasn't to come true. Instead, the pair worked their way up freerider, also on the El Capitan face, reaching 1,000 metres above the Yosemite Valley floor. Taking several days to climb, the pair faced many physical and emotional challenges. Other climbers on the route created frustrations and increased the ever-present danger of objects falling from above, narrowly missing them at over 200 kilometres per hour. They themselves dropping a camera and two-way radio. The camera and the memories contained within fell to doom 700 metres below, while the radio safely landed on the climber's equipment bag below them. Already behind schedule, news came of an approaching storm, dubbed the Storm of the Century, leaving the pair with less time than they needed to complete the climb. 6 hours to abseil down from their great height, or over 11 hours to continue up if they really pushed it, descent to certain safety or ascend into the uncertain. Mayan's dream of free climbing a big wall burned deep inside her. They continued up the wall, aid climbing sections that were too hard to climb quickly, meaning Mayan's free climbing dream would have to wait. Aid climbing involves using gear to cling to the rock rather than holding on with pure strength like free climbing. After a long 11-hour day, the pair made it to the summit after dark. Spending the night, they walked out, reaching the ground floor 3 hours later. Only quarter of an hour before the storm hit, the pair then relaxed in the local library, where a foot of snow covered the ground outside. Mayan and Max will return to Yosemite Valley this October. But in the meantime, after years of attempts, Mayan has completed a local climb called Space Boy, one of the hardest climbs in New Zealand, making her the first female to complete the route. Mayan was also invited to Singapore with some of the world's elite climbers to climb up the newly completed Marina Bay Sands Tower as part of the opening celebrations. After the break, orienteering, rhythm gymnastics and karate.